No harm ever came from reading a book. The Mummy wasn't just an adventure film, it was a resurrection of classic Hollywood spectacle wrapped in CGI sand where every trap killed, every curse mattered, and somehow a movie about reanimated corpses became the most charming blockbuster of the 90s. But behind the golden treasures and scarab swarms, nothing was simple. The star nearly died on set. The director fought for a character the studio hated, and the Mummy himself, his face was created by technology that didn't fully exist yet. These are 20 weird facts about the Mummy, and buried in the sand, a scene so dangerous it sent Brendan Fraser to the hospital with rope burns around his neck. Prepare for plagues. This curse is about to break. Number 1. Brendan Fraser was nearly hanged to death. During the prison scene,
"Step over the threshold. Welcome to Cairo prison, my humble home."
You told me that you got it on a dig down in thieves.
the opening prison sequence looks brutal. Rick O'Connell on the gallows, rope around his neck, trapdoor drops, he dangles, struggles. It's supposed to look real. It was real, too real. The stunt was carefully planned. Brendan Fraser would drop through the trapdoor wearing a harness under his costume. The rope was a breakaway prop, designed to snap on impact, transferring weight to the hidden harness. Safe, controlled, except the rope didn't break. Fraser dropped, the noose caught his neck, his full body weight. He was actually hanging, choking, for real. The crew thought he was acting, selling the struggle. It looked perfect on camera. Then someone noticed his face, wrong color, purple, his eyes bulging, not acting, dying. They rushed in, cut the rope. Fraser collapsed, unconscious. Medics arrived. He wasn't breathing. They performed CPR, got him back. He regained consciousness, gasping, confused, throat crushed. Production shut down immediately. Fraser spent hours in the hospital. Rope burns circled his neck, deep, visible, painful. The studio wanted to delay filming. Fraser refused. He came back the next day, scarf covering his injuries, and finished the scene. But he never forgot. Years later, he'd touch his neck describing it, the memory still fresh. The day a movie stunt almost became a movie death. Number 2. Tom Cruise was the studio's first choice for Rick O'Connell.
Madame, I would pay £100 just to see him hang.
£200.
Proceed.
£300. £500.
Before Brendan Fraser became Rick O'Connell, Universal Pictures had another name in mind, Tom Cruise. This was 1957. Cruise was the biggest star on the planet. Mission Impossible was a phenomenon. Jerry Maguire had just earned him an Oscar nomination. He could open any film. And Universal wanted him, badly. They offered him the role. Big money, back-end percentage, creative control. Cruise read the script, liked it, but he had concerns. He wanted Rick darker, more serious, less funny. He saw the character as a tortured soldier haunted by war, a dramatic lead with action elements. Director Stephen Sommers heard this and panicked. That wasn't the movie he wanted to make. He envisioned Rick as a charming rogue. Han Solo meets Indiana Jones. Funny, likable, flawed but heroic, not brooding, not dark. Sommers met with Cruise, explained his vision. Cruise listened politely, then walked away. The tones didn't match. He wanted drama. Sommers wanted adventure. Neither would compromise. Universal was devastated. They just lost Tom Cruise. But Sommers was relieved. He needed someone who understood the balance of humor and action. Someone who could be both tough and vulnerable. Someone like Brendan Fraser, who'd just finished George of the Jungle, who wasn't a massive star, but who had exactly the energy the role needed. And suddenly, losing Cruise became the film's greatest gift. Number 3. The CGI for Imhotep's face was invented specifically for this film and
Good Lord, protect and watch over me. The shepherd watch.
Industrial Light and Magic faced an impossible task. Create a photorealistic, decaying face that transforms from corpse to human. In 1999, that technology didn't exist. Not really. CGI could create creatures, dinosaurs, aliens. But human faces? That was the uncanny valley. Too realistic and it looks creepy. Not realistic enough and it looks fake. There was no middle ground. But the Mummy required it. Imhotep needed to look like Arnold Vosloo, while simultaneously looking like a rotting corpse in various stages of regeneration. ILM had to invent new software, new rendering techniques, new approaches to facial animation. They spent months just on research and development, creating programs that could map Vosloo's face, layer muscle, add decay, animate decomposition. Every frame of Imhotep's transformation required hours of computation. Teams of animators working simultaneously. Some frames took days to render on the most powerful computers available, and they were making it up as they went. No blueprint, no previous film to reference, just trial and error, delete and restart. The pressure was immense. If the face didn't work, the entire film collapsed. You can't have a mummy movie where the mummy looks ridiculous. After 8 months, they finally achieved it. The transformation scenes where Imhotep's face shifts from skeletal to human. Seamless, terrifying, beautiful. It became the gold standard for CGI human faces, and it almost didn't happen because the technology had to be created from nothing, just for this film. Number 4. Rachel Weisz beat out 200 actresses because she made Stephen Sommers laugh. The role of Evelyn Carnahan was crucial, not just a damsel, a librarian who becomes a hero, smart, capable, funny, vulnerable. The studio wanted a name, a model or pop star who could draw audiences. Sommers wanted an actress, someone who could deliver comedy and drama, someone who felt real. Casting calls went out. Some were famous, some were unknowns, all talented, but none clicked. Then Rachel Weisz walked in. British, classically trained, primarily a stage actress. No blockbuster experience. She read the scene where Evelyn knocks over the bookcases, the domino effect of destruction. Weisz played it desperately, trying to remain dignified while everything collapsed around her. Physical comedy with emotional sincerity. Sommers started laughing, couldn't stop. The casting director was laughing. Even the assistant was laughing. Weisz finished the scene, adjusted her hair, and said in character, "I am a librarian." Perfect. Sommers offered her the role immediately. The studio protested. She wasn't famous. She wouldn't sell tickets. Sommers argued, showed them the audition tape. They watched her knock over imaginary bookcases, watched her sell the character completely. They relented. Weisz got the part, and she became the heart of the film. Because sometimes the best casting isn't about star power. It's about finding the person who makes everyone in the room believe. Number 5. The scarab beetles were a combination of CGI and actual bugs. The scarab beetle scenes terrified audiences, under skin, burrowing into flesh, consuming victims from the inside, nightmare fuel. But creating that effect required mixing the real and the digital. ILM handled the CGI beetles, thousands of them, swarming, moving with insect logic. That was the easy part. The hard part? Getting real bugs on actors. The production needed actual beetles crawling on skin for close-ups, for tactile reality. So they brought in beetles, not scarabs. Those are sacred in Egypt and protected, but similar-looking beetles, hundreds of them. Wranglers kept them in containers, fed them, kept them alive and active. When shooting the scarab scenes, they'd release beetles onto actors, real insects crawling on real skin. Most actors handled it professionally. Some freaked out. One extra refused after a beetle crawled into his ear. They had to stop filming, remove the bug. He quit on the spot. Brendan Fraser was surprisingly calm, let beetles crawl all over him. Rachel Weisz less so. She did it, but admitted later she was screaming internally. The worst part? The beetles didn't follow direction. They'd crawl where they wanted, sometimes toward the camera, sometimes off the actor entirely. Wranglers would have to recapture them, reset, try again. One scene requiring beetles took 8 hours to film, not because of technical issues, because of beetle logistics. The final effect combined these real insect shots with CGI swarms. Seamless, horrifying, and partially authentic, because sometimes practical effects mean letting actual bugs crawl on you for art. Number 6. Arnold Vosloo learned ancient Egyptian for authenticity. Arnold Vosloo, playing Imhotep, could have phoned it in. Most of his dialogue was ancient Egyptian, a dead language. Nobody in the audience would know if he was pronouncing it correctly. He could have just made sounds. But Vosloo didn't work that way. He hired an Egyptologist, Dr. Stuart Tyson Smith from UC Santa Barbara. Smith became Vosloo's personal tutor. They spent months before filming studying Middle Egyptian. The grammar, the pronunciation, the rhythm of the language. Vosloo wanted every word perfect, even if no one would notice. Even if most of his lines would be subtitled, it mattered to him. Smith was impressed. Most actors learned phonetically, memorized sounds without meaning. Vosloo wanted to understand. He'd ask what each word meant, how it connected, why Imhotep would phrase something a particular way. He wasn't just speaking lines, he was thinking in ancient Egyptian. On set, between takes, Vosloo would practice, mutter incantations, run through pronunciations. Other actors thought he was method acting. He was, but his method was linguistic accuracy. When Egyptologists saw the film, they were shocked, actually correct. One professor wrote that hearing properly pronounced Middle Egyptian in a Hollywood blockbuster was surreal, because it never happened, except Vosloo made it happen. He turned a dead language into living dialogue, all because he cared about a detail most people would never notice. Number 7. The film was shot entirely in Morocco, despite being set in Egypt.
Who the hell are these guys?
The Mummy takes place in Egypt, every scene. The Nile, Cairo, Hamunaptra, obviously filmed in Egypt, right? Wrong. They never went to Egypt, not once. The entire film was shot in Morocco, Marrakesh specifically, with some studio work in England. Why not Egypt? Politics. In 1997, when pre-production began, Egypt was experiencing tourism issues, security concerns. The government wasn't welcoming foreign film productions, especially ones involving mummies and curses. They considered it potentially disrespectful, so Universal looked elsewhere. Morocco was close, had similar geography, deserts, markets, ancient architecture, and they welcomed film productions, offered tax incentives. The production moved there, but it created challenges. Morocco doesn't look exactly like Egypt. The buildings are different, the landscape distinct. The art department worked overtime. They built Egyptian facades, dressed locations to look like Cairo, created the entire city of Hamunaptra from scratch in the Moroccan desert. A massive set, practical and digital extensions. The crew became experts in fake Egyptian architecture, learning hieroglyphics, historical details, making Morocco look like Egypt. Most viewers never noticed. The illusion was complete, but Egyptians noticed. When the film released, Egyptian audiences laughed at certain details, wrong architectural styles, incorrect hieroglyphics in some shots, small mistakes from filming elsewhere, but they forgave it because the film was fun, respectful enough, and sometimes authenticity means accepting you can't always film where the story takes place. Number 8. Brendan Fraser did most of his own stunts and his body paid the price. Brendan Fraser wanted to be a real action star. That meant doing his own stunts, as many as possible. The studio had stunt doubles, professionals. Fraser used them minimally. He wanted audiences to see him, his face, his effort, his pain. So he did it all, running from collapsing tombs, fighting mummies, dodging traps, getting thrown around. It destroyed his body. Fraser suffered multiple injuries during production. He broke ribs when a cave-in effect went wrong, crushed his vertebrae during a hanging stunt, tore his knee ligaments running on sand, dislocated his shoulder in a fight scene. Every week brought new pain, new problems. But Fraser never complained, never asked for time off. He'd get injured, get treated, and return to set. The stunt coordinator begged him to use doubles more. Fraser refused. He said Rick O'Connell was tough, a survivor. He needed to look like he'd actually been through hell, and the only way to achieve that was to actually go through hell. By the end of filming, Fraser was held together by tape and painkillers. He'd need ice baths every night, physical therapy every morning. Years later, he revealed the damage, multiple surgeries, chronic pain. His body never fully recovered. The Mummy franchise took pieces of him, literally, but watching the film, you see it, the authenticity. Fraser isn't acting exhausted, he is exhausted. His struggles are real, and that commitment elevated the entire film. Number 9. The plane crash scene used a real biplane that actually crashed. The biplane crash in the desert wasn't CGI, not entirely. They used a real vintage biplane, restored, functional, beautiful, and they intentionally crashed it, for real. The stunt required precision. The plane would fly low over the dunes, tip forward, nose into the sand, flip, all while cameras rolled. One take, no reset. Once you crash a plane, it's crashed. They had stunt pilots, safety crews, ambulances standing by. The pilot would eject before impact. A mannequin would remain visible in the cockpit for the shot. Everything calculated, rehearsed, as safe as intentionally crashing a plane could be. The day came, cameras positioned at multiple angles. The plane took off, circled, came in for the crash run, descended toward the sand. Then something went wrong. The plane tilted wrong, came in at the wrong angle. Instead of a controlled crash, it slammed hard, harder than planned. The impact was massive, metal crunching, wings tearing off. The plane disintegrated more than they'd intended. The pilot had ejected. He was safe, but the plane was destroyed, completely destroyed. Nothing salvageable. The crew stood in shocked silence. Then someone checked the footage. Every camera got it. Perfect angles, dramatic, real, more spectacular than they'd planned. They wouldn't have to reshoot, couldn't reshoot. The only plane was gone, but the scene was captured, and it looked incredible. Sometimes accidents create the best shots, as long as nobody dies. Number 10. Stephen Sommers fought the studio to keep the film's tone light.
Are you all right?
Universal executives wanted The Mummy to be dark, serious, a horror film with action elements, like Alien, like The Exorcist, scary. Stephen Sommers had a different vision. He wanted fun, adventure, romance, comedy, like Indiana Jones, like Pirates of the Caribbean before Pirates of the Caribbean existed. The studio thought he was crazy. Mummies are monsters, horror icons. You don't make them funny, Sommers argued back. He said the original 1932 Mummy was atmospheric, not terrifying. He wanted that spirit, thrills and chills balanced with humor and heart. The executives pushed back, showed him box office numbers, horror sells, comedy adventures are risky. Sommers showed them his script, the humor, the romance, the charm. They read it and remained unconvinced. So Sommers did something risky. He filmed the movie the way he wanted, trusted his vision, encouraged his actors to be funny, to flirt, to joke even while running from mummies. He didn't make it dark, he made it joyful. When the studio saw early cuts, they panicked. This isn't what we wanted. It's too light, too silly. Sommers held his ground. Asked them to screen it for test audiences. Trust the reaction. They did. The audience loved it, laughed, cheered, wanted more. The scores were exceptional. The studio backed off. Sommers had won. He'd proven that mummies didn't have to be terrifying to be successful. They could be fun, and that choice made The Mummy a phenomenon. Number 11. Kevin J. O'Connor improvised most of Benny's cowardly reactions.
Here I come!
Benny Gabor, the sniveling coward, wasn't written to be that funny. The script had him as a straightforward villain, greedy, traitorous, mean. Kevin J. O'Connor saw something else. He wanted Benny pathetic, hilariously pathetic. So he started improvising. His panicked prayers in multiple languages, improvised. O'Connor actually knew phrases in Hebrew, Arabic, and ancient Egyptian. He'd studied them for authenticity, but decided to use them for comedy. The bit where he frantically switches religions trying to ward off Imhotep? Not scripted. O'Connor just started doing it during a take. Sommers loved it, kept it. The treasure room scene where Benny fills his pockets while everything collapses? The greed overriding survival instinct? O'Connor's idea. He played Benny as someone whose cowardice and greed fought constantly for dominance. Usually greed won. Between takes, O'Connor would pitch new bits to Sommers. What if Benny tried this? What if he ran this direction? Sommers gave him freedom, told him to experiment. Most of it made the final cut, because O'Connor understood something crucial. Benny needed to be funny. If he was just evil, audiences would hate him. But if he was a bumbling, cowardly, greedy mess, he became entertaining, a comic relief villain. Test audiences cited Benny as one of their favorite characters, not because he was written that way, because O'Connor made choices that elevated every scene he was in. Number 12. The opening battle scene used over 300 extras and took 2 weeks to film. The Battle of Hamunaptra. Opening sequence looks massive. Armies clashing. Thousands of warriors. Epic scale. It felt bigger than it was. They had 300 extras. That's it. Not thousands. But through camera tricks, costume changes, and strategic positioning, they made 300 look like thousands. The extras would film one take as Egyptian soldiers, then run off camera, change costumes, become Medjay warriors, and film another take. Same people, different roles. The editing combined multiple passes to create crowd density that didn't exist. It was exhausting. 2 weeks of battle choreography in Moroccan heat, extras swinging fake weapons, running, falling, dying dramatically. Many were local Moroccans hired for daily rates. Some had never seen a movie set. They learned basic fight choreography, enough to look convincing from a distance. Close-ups used trained stunt performers. Wide shots used everyone. The coordination was nightmarish. Hundreds of people moving simultaneously, multiple cameras capturing different angles. One wrong move could ruin an entire take, and they couldn't afford many takes. Film stock was expensive. Time was limited. So they rehearsed extensively, dry runs without cameras, making sure everyone knew their marks. When they finally filmed, most shots were captured in 1 or 2 takes. The efficiency was remarkable. The result looked like a $200 million epic. The actual cost? A fraction of that. All because 300 extras were willing to die multiple times in different costumes. Number 13. Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser's chemistry was instant and unrehearsed. Rick and Evelyn's romance drives the film. Their banter, their chemistry, the way they look at each other, it feels natural, earned, real. That's because it was. Weisz and Fraser met during rehearsals, hit it off immediately, not romantically, professionally. They just clicked. Same sense of humor, similar work ethic. They'd improvise together, riff on lines, make each other laugh. Summers watched them rehearse and realized he didn't need to direct their chemistry. It existed naturally, so he let them play. Many of their flirtation scenes were improvised. The drunk scene where Evelyn rambles, Weisz made up most of that dialogue. Fraser's reactions were genuine. He was actually charmed by her performance. The kiss scene was scripted, but the build-up, the way they looked at each other, that was real connection between actors who trusted each other. They spent months filming together, became close friends. That friendship translated on screen as romance. When they'd film emotional scenes, neither had to fake vulnerability. They genuinely cared about each other's performances, wanted each other to shine. Test audiences consistently rated the Rick-Evelyn relationship as the film's heart. Studio executives were shocked. They'd expected the action and effects to carry the film. Instead, people cared about the characters, about their relationship, all because 2 actors happened to have natural chemistry that couldn't be manufactured or forced. Number 14. The mummy's regeneration scene required Arnold Vosloo to sit in makeup for 9 hours daily. Imhotep's regeneration, where he transforms from rotting corpse to handsome villain, was partially practical effects. CGI handled the impossible bits, but many shots used actual prosthetics on Vosloo. The makeup process was hell. Vosloo would arrive at 4 a.m., sit in a chair, and for the next 9 hours artists would apply prosthetics, layer after layer, foam latex pieces for decaying flesh, contact lenses that made him blind, dental appliances that made speaking difficult. By the time they finished, Vosloo was unrecognizable, uncomfortable, barely able to move or breathe. Then he'd film for maybe 4 hours. After that, another 2 hours removing everything, solvents, scrubbing, his skin raw and irritated. He'd go to bed, wake up at 3 a.m., do it again, for weeks. The makeup artists rotated shifts because the work was so tedious, but Vosloo couldn't rotate. He had to endure it daily. Some days were worse than others. The full decay makeup was the most extreme. Weisz completely covered. He couldn't see, couldn't eat, could barely drink through a straw. Between takes, he'd sit motionless. Moving risked damaging the makeup. If something tore, they'd have to repair it. That meant delays. So Weisz became a statue. Patient, professional, never complaining. The makeup team loved him. Said he was the easiest, difficult job they'd ever had. Because Weisz understood. The character required suffering, and he was willing to suffer for it. Every day, for months. Number 15. John Hannah was cast as Jonathan because he made Stephen Sommers snort laugh.
Well, not sure.
Jonathan Carnahan wasn't a major role originally. Evelyn's brother, comic relief, a few scenes, not crucial. But Stephen Sommers wanted someone who could steal scenes, make audiences remember him. Casting saw dozens of British actors, all perfectly competent, all forgettable. Then John Hannah walked in, Scottish, not English, already a departure. He read Jonathan's lines with a thick accent, playing him as a lovable drunk scoundrel, more interested in treasure than heroics. Sommers was intrigued, asked Hannah to improvise. Hannah launched into a story about Jonathan's fictional past, something about stealing from the wrong person, owing money, running scams, complete nonsense, but hilarious nonsense. Sommers laughed so hard he snorted, embarrassing himself. Hannah kept going, wouldn't break character, just kept spinning this absurd tale. When he finished, Sommers offered him the role immediately. But there was a problem. Hannah was too funny. Sommers went back to the writers, told them to expand Jonathan's role, give him more scenes, more jokes. Hannah deserved it. They rewrote during production, adding bits, letting Hannah improvise. The treasure room scene where Jonathan tries loading gold while everything collapses, extended because Hannah was so funny. The drunk scenes, expanded. By the final cut, Jonathan had become a major character, a fan favorite, all because one Scottish actor made a director snort laugh during an audition. Number 16. The Cairo market chase scene destroyed an actual Moroccan marketplace. The chase through Cairo's market looks chaotic. Stalls collapsing, fruit flying, people scattering. It's supposed to look destructive. It was destructive. They filmed in a real Moroccan marketplace. Vendors sold actual goods. People shopped there daily. The production rented it for a week, paid stall holders for lost business, built collapsible props, fake stalls designed to break apart safely. But they needed some real elements: fruit, fabric, pottery. The collision of fake and real. The stunt required precision. Actors running full speed. Stunt performers crashing through stalls. Extras scattering convincingly. They rehearsed extensively, mapped out exactly which stalls would be destroyed, which were off-limits, protected the real vendor areas. Then they filmed. First take. Everything went wrong. A stunt person crashed into the wrong stall. A real one. Pottery shattered. Actual merchandise destroyed. The vendor screamed. Production halted. They compensated him. Triple the pottery's value. Reset. Tried again. Second take. Better. But an actor slipped. Crashed into a fabric stall. Brought down real textiles. More money. More apologies. By take 5, they got it. Perfect chaos. Controlled destruction. But the marketplace was wrecked. Real damage mixed with planned destruction. The production spent 2 additional days helping rebuild, repairing stalls, compensating vendors, making things right. The scene looks amazing, but it cost them more than budgeted, because sometimes when you destroy things for real, you actually have to pay for it. Number 17. Oded Fair performed all of Ardeth Bey's stunts. While recovering from back surgery,
stop him from regenerating. Who opened that chest?
Well, there was me and Daniels here. Oh, and Burns.
Oded Fair looked like the perfect warrior. Tall, imposing, skilled. He was also secretly in constant pain. 3 months before filming, Fair had undergone back surgery. Herniated disc. Serious procedure. Recovery time 6 months minimum. Fair got the role during recovery. 4 months post-surgery. Still healing. Doctors advised against it. Stunt work could re-injure him permanently. Fair didn't care. He wanted the role. Needed it. So he lied. Told production he was fine. Completely healed. No problems. Then showed up to set and did everything. Sword fights. Horseback riding. running scenes. All while his back screamed, he'd take pain medication between takes, ice his spine, stretch constantly, but never complained. Never told anyone. The stunt coordinator thought Fair was naturally stiff, told him to loosen up. Fair would nod, try, couldn't, because loosening up meant agony, so he worked within his limitations, made Ardeth's fighting style more rigid, more controlled, less fluid. It actually worked, made the character seem more disciplined, more deadly. By the end of production, Fair's back was worse. He'd need additional treatment, more physical therapy, but he'd completed the role, done his own stunts, proven himself. Years later, he finally admitted the truth, said he'd been stupid, reckless, but also he'd created a character he was proud of. Sometimes stupid decisions lead to great performances, even if your back never forgives you. Number 18. The film's budget ballooned from $15 million to $80 million during production. The Mummy started as a modest adventure film. $15 million budget, small scale, limited effects, a throwback to classic monster movies. Then Stephen Sommers started adding things, bigger action sequences, more CGI, expanded sets. Each edition increased costs. The studio kept approving, kept spending, because test footage looked amazing. They saw potential, so they invested more. The sandstorm scene, not originally planned, added mid-production, $8 million for that sequence alone. The scarab swarm, originally much smaller, expanded, more money. The opening battle, script called for 50 soldiers. They used 300. Budget increased. By the halfway point, they'd spent $40 million, double the original budget. Universal executives panicked briefly, then looked at what they had. This wasn't a small adventure film anymore. It was a blockbuster, a potential franchise. So they kept spending. Final budget, $80 million, more than 5 times the original plan. Some executives thought they'd made a terrible mistake, overspent on a risky project. Then the film was released. Opening weekend, $43 million domestic. It became one of 1999's biggest hits. Worldwide gross, $460 million. The overspending was justified. They'd accidentally created a massive hit by refusing to limit their vision. Sometimes the best films come from productions that spiral out of control, as long as the spending leads to quality. Number 19. Patricia Velasquez made history as the first Latina lesbian action star.
Of Anaxunamun, Pharaoh's mistress. No other man was allowed to touch her.
Patricia Velasquez played Anck-su-namun, Imhotep's forbidden love, the woman whose death triggers the curse. She's stunning, fierce, memorable, and she made history. Velasquez was the first openly gay Latina actress to play a major role in a Hollywood blockbuster. Though she wasn't openly gay yet during filming, that came later. In 1999, being LGBTQ+ in Hollywood was career suicide. Studios wanted bankable stars, traditional images. Anything different was risky. Velasquez stayed closeted during production, played the heterosexual love interest convincingly. Nobody knew. Years later, after the film's success, she came out, publicly, in interviews, in her autobiography. She talked about the fear, the pressure, the worry that coming out would end her career. It did slow down. Roles became scarcer, but she didn't regret it. She'd become a role model, the first Latina lesbian action star. Kids wrote her letters. LGBTQ+ youth saw representation. She'd made history without even knowing it. During filming, she was just an actress playing a role. Later, that role became significant for reasons beyond the script. Velasquez continued acting, started a foundation, became an activist, used her platform for visibility. The Mummy gave her that platform, made her recognizable, famous enough to make a difference. Sometimes the impact of a film extends far beyond entertainment, into representation, into lives changed by seeing someone like them on screen. Number 20. The film almost had a completely different ending. The final confrontation in Hamunaptra wasn't the original ending. The script had something else. After defeating Imhotep, Rick and Evelyn would discover another curse, a bigger threat, a setup for a sequel. Very obvious, very commercial. Test audiences hated it. They wanted closure, not a cliffhanger. The romance resolved, the adventure complete. So Summers scrambled, rewrote the ending. Instead of a sequel tease, they'd have a moment. Rick and Evelyn on camels, riding into the sunset. Jonathan loaded with treasure. Classic, simple, earned. But there was a problem. They'd already left Morocco. The sets were gone. They had to film the new ending in California. Different desert, different light. Everything is different. The production designer tried matching Morocco's look. The cinematographer adjusted color grading. They filmed quickly, hoped nobody would notice the location change. Most people didn't. The ending worked. It felt complete, satisfying, a perfect conclusion to an adventure. When the film became a hit, Universal demanded a sequel anyway, but on Summers' terms. Not because the first film forced it, because audiences wanted more. The decision to abandon the cliffhanger ending proved wise. It let The Mummy stand alone, a complete story. And when the sequels came, they felt like bonuses, not obligations. Sometimes the best sequel setup is no setup at all, just a great film that makes people want more. Bonus fact, Brendan Fraser kept one of Rick's guns and it's still in his house. After filming wrapped, props were returned, cataloged, stored for potential sequels. But Brendan Fraser asked if he could keep something, one of Rick O'Connell's pistols, a prop replica Webley revolver, perfectly weathered, looked authentic. The prop master hesitated. These were expensive pieces, made specifically for the film, but Fraser had nearly died for this movie, multiple times. The least they could do was let him keep a fake gun. They agreed. Fraser took it home, put it on display. It's still there, in his house. Over 2 decades later, visitors ask about it. Fraser tells mummy stories about the hanging, the injuries, the adventure. The gun is a reminder of a role that defined his career, of a character people still love, of a time when Hollywood made sincere adventure films. Fraser has said in interviews that looking at that gun makes him smile, reminds him why he became an actor, to have adventures, make people happy, tell great stories. That prop represents all of it. One fake gun, but real memories, real impact, real legacy. Because The Mummy wasn't just a job for Fraser, it was the experience of a lifetime, and he made sure he'd never forget it. The Mummy didn't just resurrect ancient evil, it resurrected adventure cinema, proving blockbusters could have heart, humor, and actual danger behind the scenes. If these secrets amazed you, hit like, subscribe, and tell us your favorite moment. Death is only the beginning, but this video is just getting started.